Dobrze. Okay. Fear of failure has led to instruction replacing innovation. New York City has approximately 1,000 tourist attractions. Yet there are over 50,000 different guides published of what to see and do in New York City. And it led me to ask, what drives this requirement we have to be guided and to be instructed, this need we have? And it's because we are afraid. We are afraid of going all the way to New York City and not seeing everything that's important, not optimizing every second we are there, or as simple as not going down a street that wasn't part of the plan. And now this is not only happening in tourism, but it's affecting every part of our lives, especially our careers. 52% of us admit that we are so afraid of failing in work that we avoid making important decisions. 4 in every 10 people say that they are actively considering resigning from their jobs right now. And 65% of us say that we feel stuck in our current roles. It's a career pandemic that we are currently facing, because what do we do when we feel stuck? Is anyone familiar with the phrase that when one door closes, another door opens? Exactly. When we are stuck, we look for an open door. When we face a problem, we are looking for a path that someone else has already taken because it's safer, it's easier, it's an open door. But what if we can make our own doors instead of waiting for somebody to save us? Because I believe every one of us in this room can do that, but technology and habit has led to us forgetting. So I want you to imagine this beautiful red dot that I'm stood on here today, that it was a button. And when I walked out on stage, we pressed that button together, and every piece of advice, every guide, every instruction ever made disappears. I know, it's a little bit scary, but stay with me. Because then imagine we faced a problem that we needed to solve. Now, I adore this thought process. I love it because it means that we have to create. We would have to blindly create because there would be no instruction, no inspiration to look for. And we'd have to pick up a hammer and make a Mick-sized shape through our problem. And we would have to do it to move forward without knowing through that hole we just made if there are sunshines and solutions or crocodiles and failures. Because when there are no instructions, we have no choice but to face the fear of failing. When there is no instruction, we have no choice but to innovate. I know what it's like to have no doors and therefore no choice. Now, 17 years ago, I moved from the UK to Poland. Now, in the UK, I didn't have any career path. I actually planned to be a professional rugby player. And from the age of 16 to 19, I actually was. This photo is for proof because you wouldn't believe that I was a professional rugby player. But fundamentally, at 19 years old, that career stopped because I wasn't offered another contract. And I did what we've been taught to do. I looked for an open door. And I squeezed myself through any door I could find. I worked in a call center. I worked in a shoe store. I even sold ice cream. But the key was that I gave up on all my goals, my vision, my dreams, because I believed there was no other choice than for me to adapt to the doors instead of the doors adapt to me. Now, years later, I moved to wonderful Poland. And when I moved to Poland, I didn't speak Polish. I didn't have a career path. And I had no form of higher education, no degree. So there was one door in front of me, and it was to be an English teacher. Exciting. Now, it turns out I'm a terrible English teacher. And I learned this about 4 minutes into my first lesson when my student corrected my spelling. I'll add that my student was 12, okay? Okay. But after that lesson, I was concerned because I lived in Poland, I couldn't speak Polish, and now I couldn't teach English. Every job I could find required Polish language, which makes total sense. But one door had closed and no doors were open. So I was forced to innovate. And I was forced to look for companies that were not hiring, but I believed I could bring value. And one of those companies was a local IT company in Gdynia. So I reached out and I said, I know you are not hiring. This is the value I believe I can bring to your business, and I believe that value will be higher than my cost. They invited me for an interview and hired me the next week. Now, this was my first experience in picking up a hammer and making my own door. But more importantly, it was my first experience in realizing that I still had a value. That value was not counted by the number of opportunities in front of me, but by the one opportunity that took me closer on my journey to where I wanted to be. Now, 5 years later, I wanted to change my career, and I was like, great, let's make another door. I really liked that experience. And there was a rising Polish startup that I really wanted to work for. So I reached out to them, I explained my value, they were interested, it was working, great. High fives all around, I'd made a door. But then this door was different, because the startup could only offer me 50% of my previous salary. They were a startup, they didn't have any more money to give. And I'd been taught that you only go through doors that raise your salary. This was something that was instructed to me throughout my life. And I had to remind myself, no, Mick, you are innovating. You are making your own doors. Now, yes, this door lowers your salary temporarily, but increases your potential for the future. Now, I went through this door, but I knew I could only go through it for 3 months. That was all the savings we had. If I couldn't prove my value inside the company during that time, I'd have to go and try and make a new door. Luckily, on the 3rd month, the CEO came to me and said that they talked to the investors, they were able to find more funding, and they were able to match my previous salary, and I could stay through that door. Now, it led me to sit back and think, okay, this had taken me from being a failed sports person to business leadership. Could I apply this to other areas of my life, other business challenges? So we tried. Now, I work at a company called TRAFFIT, and we work with HR professionals. And we noticed that HR professionals really like to buy books to progress themselves professionally, but afterwards they would resell those books online, sometimes even for a few dollars, a few zlotys, mostly to fund their next purchase. Now, we looked at this and thought, this is a painful cycle for those people. Can we make a door? Can we make some kind of HR library of books? So off we went. And what we first did is we bought all those used books online. We bought all those second-hand books. And then we thought to ourselves, okay, we will let people borrow those books for 3 or 4 weeks at a time and then send them back to us. Like, yeah, great, we've made a door. And then we went, wait, that door already exists over there. It's called a library and everybody knows about it. We were like, okay, the door already exists and people were not using it. They were not going through that door. So we had to innovate the door. We had to create our own door that solved the problem in a different way. Now, the first thing we did, the first innovation was, we said to people, we'll send the book right to your doorstep. You can see a list of all the books that are available. You can request it, we'll send it. That solves one little problem that a library has, although probably those people should go get some more steps anyway. But the second innovation was where we got really creative, because we said to people, when you take a book from our library, I want you to write in it. I know, scary. We want you to write in it. I want you to write on the inside cover your name, the city, but also, I want you to write in the book whatever it makes you feel as you are reading it on the pages. Because when a reader writes in a book, it becomes unique. It becomes one of one. It means that that book no longer exists on any bookshelf in any library around the world. And initially, over 800 people signed up for our library. Fantastic, high five. And then we got the first round of books back. And what we realized was, our readers did write in the books, but they wrote on Post-it notes and on pieces of paper. Because that instruction they'd had throughout their life of, you should not write in books, was too strong. It was really strong for them. And we had to say to them, listen, it's okay, this is not that door, it's a new door, it's a new innovation. I even had to check, because it felt like maybe it was illegal, but it wasn't, we checked it. You really are allowed to write in books. And we had to say to them, listen, if you open a book and you see that Anna from Warsaw wrote on a page, that's a great idea, I'm going to try that in work tomorrow. It doesn't ruin the book. It allows a reader to be inspired and excited by a different reader. And it allows that journey to go from reader to reader to reader, a journey that's never happened before. We managed to convince our members to do this. Now, this campaign for me was not such a success because we had 800 members. It was a success for me because we had 500 books with notes in. We created 500 books that don't exist anywhere else in the world, and for me, they are priceless. Now, looking back, and this approach of creating doors and approaching problems like this, it made me ask, if it helped me in my career, if it can be applied to business problems and real-life problems, can anyone pick up a hammer and make their own door? And I believe they can. There are things we can do as individuals, but also as a community, to take more control of our journeys. Now, the first thing I want to recommend, the next time you are faced with a problem, speculate the solution before you search for instruction. Speculate the solution before you search for instruction. Give your mind and your creativity both the time and the priority they deserve to try to solve the problem first. You may just find the next great idea. Secondly, I would like you to visualize what's the worst thing that can happen if my idea is wrong. And normalize with yourself that it's okay that sometimes we have to alter doors, we have to make new ones before we find the solution that fits us. And not only is that part of the process, it can be sometimes enjoyable. And next time you're thinking about changing your career, if you're those 65% of people that feel stuck, I want you to think first, who would I love to work for? Before I see who is hiring. And I want you to reach out to those companies and say why you would love to work for them and talk about the values you would like to bring to their business. You might just unlock the next part of your career journey. Now, as a community, it's really important that we prepare our youth that when they enter the job market, they may not be overloaded with opportunities. They may have to make their own doors, and that we back that up. And we give them the courage and reassurance that value is not counted by the number of opportunities being given to you. It's by the single opportunity you make that is in the direction that you want to go. 17 years ago, I learned to pick up a hammer and put down my fear. It was by far the most important part of my journey, my story. I let open doors inspire me, but not instruct me. And I like to question everything I can to see if it can be done better, faster, or even in a more enjoyable way. It's also something that I believe that everybody here has inside them. You are one of one. You are a unique resource. You have unique experience, whether you are 16 or 96. I would like to see you feel confident enough to take that experience and turn it into amazing, unique ideas. Today, we can start to do things differently, maybe in a way that's never been done before. All it needs is some courage to put down the guidebook, pick up a hammer, and make some doors. Thank you very much. Thank you.